Hello coaches, welcome back to another Modern Soccer Coach Breakdown. We've done episodes on the strengths of a back three. We've done webinars on back three build-ups. We've done back three patterns, but we've never looked at where the weaknesses potentially are in a back three. So I've looked at a few games over the last 2 or 3 weeks and put some notes together. Here are 3 areas that are vulnerable when defending in a back three. If you enjoy this and you want more systems breakdown, please like, please subscribe. And if you want the free access to the webinars, the chats, and the WhatsApp group at Modern Soccer Coach, please join MSC Insider. Link is below. Thanks for the support. Back three vulnerabilities. Let's go. The first problem is a simple but a really common one. In this situation, and it's a fairly basic situation, the ball's played wide. The wing back can't get out wide, so one of the wide defenders is going to have to step out to that wide forward. You've still got that back three in a good shape. You've got one forward, so at this point it seems like manageable from a defensive point of view. What changes is the runners that are coming in the box, and defenders in a back three system are typically really aware of cover. So in the situation of 2 forwards, they can deal with it no problem. You've got the +1. But when it becomes a 4v3 potentially in the box with late runners, yes, you require those midfielders to track runners, but if a midfielder switches off, or if there is a speed advantage for an attacker, then forwards can get in between these defenders. And with runs in the box, the momentum of those runs and the fact that defenders are maybe aware of different markers or the fact that they're static, it can lead to a mismatch in that box duel. So defenders can sometimes miss players coming in late. Again, late runners coming from the box is a bit of a problem for back threes. You would think those 3 defenders can deal with numbers, but like I said, sometimes those 3 defenders get really man oriented. We've seen this recently with Manchester United against Fulham. Even with a good structure in the box, you're still vulnerable to late runs, and it's very difficult to pass on those markers, pass on those runs when the ball's just about to be served from wide areas. The second example is again something that seems to be a manageable situation. Again, same picture, ball is wide. This time the wing back's going to come back and you've got 3v3 in the box. So the solution to this initially is probably, okay, if we've got a 3v3 in the box, we will bring over the weak side wing back to provide cover. But as this picture will show, if you do that too early, you don't actually need the wing back. It may not be a preference because you might be giving up the midfield numerical superiority. So maybe in this case here, if the wide attacker in the other team doesn't actually go into the box and they stay out, and maybe or even go inside to create a central overload around the midfielders, maybe you don't need that wing back there. So a defender might say, listen, I've got this covered, 1v1 in the box, and you bring that winger outside, wing back outside. But every pass then in this overload for the red team can move your defensive 3 across, and they've got to manage this here. You can see here, one player's going to pop off the line. Now the midfielders are overloaded, and again, the wing back on the weak side has a decision to make. A lot of movement around those 3 defenders, and this is the problem here, that sometimes the gap between the wing back and that defender with the timing can be a little bit problematic, and that weak side can be exposed because possession or an overload on the other side has tilted your defensive pressure across, and that wing back isn't necessarily in a position of cover. So where do you want that wing back in wide overloads on the other side is really important for defensive systems. And to build on from that last picture, it's not just as easy as bringing that wing back in when the ball enters the final third. That weak side wing back, bringing that wing back in, creating a back 5 is not as easy, and sometimes can create a false sense of security with the 5 and the 2. And this is why if you bring that weak side wing back in, you might actually be creating a bigger challenge for your 2 midfielders in front, and the opposition now can again pop into spaces in front of that back 5, and this can create a set of problems here for that back 5, because if they are in that straight line, then all of a sudden, look at those midfield two. And if attackers can move around those midfield two, who will probably be conditioned in a pressure cover balance type scenario, now the opponent can manipulate the spaces around those two midfielders. And this is why they can do it, or how they can do it. In this picture here, it's not that big a problem. Defender is restricting any turns for the attacker, but if those midfielders have to step across, and now you can see they come over together, again, that pressure cover relationship, so they don't want to get split, and then there might be space on either side of them. And now when the ball is played on either side, the defenders have a question. If the defender steps, then all of a sudden the attacker might move and time a run in behind them into the space they just vacated. If the defender stays and decides not to step out, this player might shoot from distance. Or if the wing back comes in and steps and helps out the midfielders, then the weak side forward is a potential option. And then every other option is combination play around this, which can still free up a shooting opportunity from out wide. So in watching teams with back five, and there are a lot of them playing back fives at the minute, when they drop into the final third, one picture I see is that you do give up shooting opportunities from outside the box, and in that case it's very, very difficult to block shots, and ricochets, deflections can happen. It can go out for corners, it can even end up in their own goal. So it's a dangerous situation whenever attackers can move off that front line and ask questions of a back three. As always, coaches, thanks for watching. I think a back three is a really, really unique system, especially today with so many variations of 4-2-3-1/4-3-3. The back three gives you a number of advantages. However, the biggest thing I always say when I'm working with coaches and they have a back three is sometimes you think, hey, back three, back five, secure, no problem. And that's probably where the weakness is. The weakness is that a back five builds a false sense of security. A central three builds a false sense of security because of the number of variables that are moving around that back three. So yeah, if possession is slow in front of you and you can pick up runners and communicate runners as well, it is quite an easy system. The higher the level you go, 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, all these systems, if they have vertical movement, as all these did in the video that we just looked at, vertical movement is a real challenge for a static back three, even a static center back pairing, but more importantly a back three, because you believe you can pick those runners up. If you can't pick them up, it's always a problem. So I think if you're planning for this and you're looking at what's going to happen in these situations, it can definitely help. I also think it's a great idea to practice against overloads. So to practice your back three, 4 versus 3, 5 versus 3. So overload your back three so that they can see that they might need help in certain areas. I always think that helps. Sometimes when you look at back threes, again, there is a false sense of security that, hey, no one's going to put a front six up. But if you look at the game today, there is a numbers game happening at the front end of the pitch when a team is building with those top teams. And then they've got the runners underneath that are going to support and overload that area. So if you're aware of it and if you're ready for it, I think it can really help. Hope you enjoy that, coaches. As always, if you want more back three content, check it out, modernsoccercoach.com/shop. And if you want more conversations, check it out, Modern Soccer Coach Insider. I will put the link below. Thanks so much for the support. See you next week. Goodbye.